So there is up to 15 spaces on the board available. I've got a room for everybody, so everybody is welcome. I guess if you could flip the slide for me, please, that would be great. So, land acknowledgement. We are, obviously, we've been told, we are here in the land of Mi'kma'ki, and that is the ancient and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Interestingly enough, there's a whole lot of words for places around here that I didn't know, so I did a little bit of research. So we know Mi'kma'ki is the Mi'kmaq Nation. Sipekne'katik is the nation in which we governs Nova Scotia, or this part of Nova Scotia. There are, I think, 4 across Nova Scotia. I wanted to know, Shibuktuk is the greater Halifax area. We hear about that one a lot because you see it written. If you're reading the newspaper or locally, they usually have Shibuktuk as their byline. I wanted to know what the local areas were called. So Parks Canada had a little bit of information, but they directed me to an online resource that is a Mi'kmaq-based resource with the place names. So the space between Sambro and Prospect, that whole coastal area, is known as, and I do apologize, I'm going to try this, it is known as Wedwadazik, and that means it is the noisy place. And if you're between Prospect and Sambro, it would be very noisy with all of that crashing water on the rocks, right? So that makes lots of sense. The other side, the sort of the Prospect side, they call it, that is the area known as Nesbatagunk. And Nesbatagunk means where the herb mixes with tobacco, which I thought was really interesting because I certainly didn't realize that we had tobacco as a native plant in our area. I wouldn't have thought it was something that grew coastally, so the more you know. In terms of our commitment from the SS Atlantic, we haven't done the work, quite frankly, to understand more about the local history of the Mi'kmaq people who may have been here before the Irish and the English and the other settlers who came. But we'd like to know more, and we are committed to learning more as we go forward and sharing what we learn with all of you. So hopefully we can continue to be a place where history lives, and we can broaden what some of that history may look like as we go forward over time. We're all treaty people, right? We all share in preserving the history of the place where we live. So that is that. Next one, please. So our current board members, it's so beautiful that we're in such a bright, sunny space. It's heck on slides, but that's okay. You don't really need the slides anyway. So myself, our vice chair is Sheila Lamplew, the fabulous musical Sheila Lamplew. We didn't have a secretary this year, so we may do. Technically, our treasurer position was vacant, but Hamish Malkin, who's been with the society a long time, listened to my pleas, and I probably cried a few tears on his desk and decided that he would help us oversee our finances so nobody else had to take that on, which was great. Really good to have a CPA in your back pocket. Directors that we have are John Corbett and Scott Balches and Mabuba Rahman and Jason Lamb, and a great team to work with all year, and I'm very grateful for their time. Next, please. Opening remarks, that's me. It's been a year. It's definitely been a year. We've managed to get some things done. We're really proud about the focus that we put on trying to get out into the community more. We're a little behind on some of the things that we wanted to get done. And we're still in the process of completing some of our commitments for the 150th anniversary that so many people worked so hard to bring forward. Those are not forgotten. I want to make that really clear. But I want to thank our funders and grantors and community partners without whom none of the work that we've been doing or the work that we have to do in the future is going to be possible. Next one, please. So we have our government partners, and I wish these pictures were better because it's a really adorable picture of Nancy Hartling and Ian Reagan. So we have the Honorable Lena Metlage-Diab, who's our MP for Halifax West. Lena's been a tremendous supporter of the SS Atlantic. She's come out to everything we've invited her to, and we really appreciate her support. Of course, Heritage Canada. We've had tremendous funding from Heritage Canada over the last number of years. That continues. They're still great supporters, and they're really excited to see us push through to the finish line on some of the projects that they've funded for us. And Digital Museums Canada as well, and Ariela's going to tell you about the project that we're doing in that in just a little bit, which is really cool. Halifax Regional, sorry, if you wouldn't mind flipping back to that one. Halifax Regional Municipality, of course, Nancy Hartling is our councillor, District 13, and Ian Rankin for Timberlea Prospect, he is our MLA. We also get tremendous funding from Communities, Culture and Heritage, and we work a lot with the Association of Nova Scotia Museums. That's a great organization that puts a lot of support into local museums and community-based museums, and really has a lot of resources and education that folks who are involved in the running of museums can kind of get involved in and help support. So it's kind of nice to know you're not flying without a net, that there are some folks out there who've done some of this stuff before and you've got a resource, which is great. And we also have had some great funding from the Government of Ireland. They have an immigrant support program. I was really fortunate just a few weeks ago to attend the Global Irish Civic Forum in Dublin. And we had a visit from the ambassador. Some of you were with us the day last fall when the Irish ambassador to Canada came out to the SS Atlantic Heritage Park Society, and we had a meet and greet there with him, and he saw the museum, and he's very familiar with the story, and is very supportive of what we do, and encouraged us to continue to connect with them on future opportunities for funding. And the Irish government is coming into a really exciting year for them. 2027 is an anniversary year of the largest migration from Ireland to Canada. So they are planning a lot of events and a lot of recognition and celebration of the fact that so many of their people found homes in Canada. They're very grateful as a nation. They want to strengthen that connection with their own diaspora, and that's part of the reason why we're able to get funding, because at the SS Atlantic we have a history of Irish community coming together and helping people, and it's very much a part of the Irish history as well. So we're very grateful for that connection. And we're good. Next, please. We have so many community partners. It seems like a cliche to say blessed, but we're in a church, I can say that. We're blessed to have so many community partners. The Prospect Road Recreation Area Association, amazing. The Parish of St. Timothy and St. Paul, without whom our very building would not exist. Rymac Construction, great local partner who's done some wonderful work for us in terms of keeping the building safe and looking decent. The Legion at Whites Lake, great community partners for us. They've been super accommodating, helping us host events and things there. The Titanic Society of Nova Scotia, we're sort of sisters under the skin because we're both dedicated to preserving the history of sister ships. That might not be the right phrase, and Bob will correct me, but both White Star Line ships, so we have a great connection there as well. The Maritime Museum of the Atlantic, we've recently been reaching out to them to get some more information and advice on what we should do in terms of preservation of some of the things that we house at the museum. So great connection for us there, and again, dedicated to the history and preservation, so common goals. Coastal Earth Care has been a great local partner as well, helping a lot with the monuments that are in Terrence Bay or Lower Prospect and Prospect Village. We're standing in one of our great community partners, New Life Community Church. Again, their technology is fantastic. It means I don't have to stand at a podium, which makes me twitchy. So I can wander around and promise not to sing, because nobody needs to hear that. And the Terrence Bay Community Hall Association as well. We've done events there, and we'll continue to do events there, and great community partners. And so many volunteers from within our local community. I wish I could list them all, but I have 42 slides that I'd have to go through, and you don't want to sit through that. So thank you. If you're involved with any of these organizations, or if you've come out at all to help with any of our events, we truly appreciate you. Next, please. Okay. So this is the first order of business. We have an agenda. I really hope you can see it. It was circulated through our email list. So just for anybody who can't read it, we did a call to order and a land acknowledgement, a welcome. We have to approve the agenda. We approved the minutes from last year that were circulated. We'll have a report from the chair. We'll have a review of our financials. We have an appointment of an auditor, financial reviewer as part of the process of an AGM, so we'll go through that. We have some committee and operational reports, a strategic priorities update. We did a bit of a visioning session this year with the tiny little groups, so we'll tell you about that. Recognition and appreciation for some of the folks who've really helped us in big ways. We have election time, so exciting. Nomination and of directors. So how that works is we will have folks basically, we'll give people the opportunity to either nominate someone or self-nominate. That's totally fine. And as I had said before, all of our directors do resign as of tonight, so all of the 15 seats are available, and you're welcome to take any of them. And then we'll have a little bit of new business. There was a motion circulated under new business around term limits for directors, so we'll talk about that. And then somebody will move to adjourn, and we'll have a lovely performance from the band that I was formerly known as Triple X, but tonight they're calling themselves Plan B, which is really not fair because they're great people, but and good friends. So we'll hear a little bit more about them very soon. So, if I can move to the approval of the agenda, could I have a nomination or a motion to approve our agenda for tonight? Thank you, Joan. Second? Ariella, thank you. Thank you for holding up your blue card, Ariella, because that reminds me, the blue cards that you were given earlier this evening, these are for those of you who are registered members. This is how you would signify your vote. So there's a motion on the floor to approve the agenda. I would ask you by holding your card to tell me whether or not you uphold that motion to approve the agenda. Gosh, I'd like to see more of those, but we'll get there. Perfect. Well, you moved it, so I think it's fair to assume that you did. All right, I'm going to call that motion approved. Thank you very much. So, I think it's me. Oh no, we have to approve the minutes from last year. They were circulated by email. It was a year ago. I hope that if you read them, you didn't notice any errors or omissions. I would like to ask for someone who has read them to move to approve the minutes from the previous year. Sheila Lamplew, thank you. Second? Jason, thank you very much. All in favor of moving to approve the minutes from last year? Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Motion carried. Oh, look at that. That's a great picture of, the display at the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic. I meant to write down who took those pictures and I didn't, so shame on me, but that is what that picture is from. So thank you for helping us get through the first couple of pieces of business. And next is a report from me. Lucky you folks. So, over the last number of months, we've been working with, we have a liaison committee between ourselves, the SS Atlantic Heritage Park Society, and the parish of St. Timothy and St. Paul. They are our landlords, for lack of a better word, and friends. They own the property that we inhabit at the SS Atlantic, so we had a lease agreement that lasted for 20 years, and that has expired, effective of November. We do have a letter of sort of agreement and continuance to let that come forward until we are able to get the new lease agreement signed, and of course, things have changed over the past number of years, and the legal language has changed, and what was before is not necessarily current, so we're kind of doing the work to make sure that the language is accurate and reflects current times. So, and we're looking at a new 10-year lease that hopefully we'll have signed and ready to go really soon. I do want to thank again the parish of St. Timothy and St. Paul. They've been very generous with their time and helping us move through this process, so we appreciate our partners there very much. An accessible ramp. So, we have funding available to install an accessible ramp at the center, and when it comes to big projects that are structurally sort of impact the structure of the building, part of that lease agreement that we have is to have the folks at the parish involved in that conversation. So we have put a call out for quotes for that project. I have one so far, would really like to get a couple of other local construction folks to bid on that project and to let us know how they might be able to help us achieve that goal to make the museum fully accessible, because right now it really isn't. You'd have to kind of, if you were in a wheelchair, go up the grass to get to the ramp, and that's really not at all acceptable if you happen to have mobility issues, and we want to make sure that everyone feels welcome at the museum. So if you do know of a contractor who's interested, please let them connect with me. I would love to share some information with them and hopefully move this project forward quickly and get it done this year. It's definitely one of our goals. We received, as I had mentioned before, through the Irish Immigrant Support Program, a small grant to help us to tell the story of the Irish community that was in the Prospect communities at the time of the wreck and rescue. Not just that time, but who were they? Where did they come from? How long had they been there? What happened to them? Did they stay? Did they go? We know some of that anecdotally, but we really wanted to get a better understanding of who the community was, the Irish settlers that had come there. So we received a grant through the Irish Immigrant Support Program through the Government of Canada, of Ireland, and Liam Mason with the Charitable Irish Society in Halifax, and Bob Chalk, whose knowledge we always defer to and revere. They are helping us to sort of put together what that story looks like, and it will be a part of the exhibition in the museum. It'll have a dedicated space where that story can be told, and we're really excited to hear more about that. So working through the research part of it right now to make sure we understand the story. And again, if there are folks in the room or folks locally that have stories from their past that we could contribute to that, we're always open to hearing them. Would love to hear from you. Other grants that we received this past year. I didn't get one from the Atlantic Lottery Corporation, so stop buying lottery tickets, please. No, kidding. I asked, they didn't say anything. They didn't say yes or no, which I thought was kind of rude. But that's okay, we'll ask again, because we're good like that. We received the Prospect Road Recreation Association, again, gave us some money to put toward some needed repairs on the boardwalk, and we've got some pieces of siding that have come off the side of the building, and just some basic repairs to make sure that everything is safe and watertight so no damage gets done and that sort of thing. So we'll use some of the money that we received from them for some basic maintenance work. They also gave us some money to put towards generator. We'd really like to start hosting events outside, whether that's during the Blessing of the Boats, so that we have the power that we need to make sure that folks can be heard when they're doing what they need to do, or whether we decide to have an outdoor picnic or maybe a concert in the gazebo some Sunday afternoon. We wanted to be able to be prepared to be able to do those kinds of events. So that's kind of on our radar, and Sheila, my musical genius, is going to take care of figuring out what kind of generator we need. And also the third piece of that grant was to get an accessible picnic table placed at the center. We have some picnic tables and benches, but there isn't anything accessible that you could kind of push a wheelchair under to be able to sit and have a meal if you wanted to picnic with your family. So we thought that would be a nice addition, and Lake City Woodworkers, which is a great local social enterprise, providing employment for folks who may have intellectual or other challenges. They produce those, and really excited to be able to sort of partner with them as well and have an opportunity to share the great work that they're doing at a place that we really love. So that is all planned for this year. HRM has, again, given us an small operational grant to help us just with keeping the lights on at the center. We do get donations that we're grateful for, but power's not getting any cheaper. And all the things that we do need at the center to move operations forward. We're really grateful for the support from HRM for those things. We started this year a corporate fundraising program. Everybody is aware that the provincial budget was not kind to not-for-profit organizations. It was really unkind to museums. So there is not a lot of funding available through there. We're really going to have to rely on our corporate partners to help us move some of the larger projects forward. To meet our responsibilities with the Legacy Grant, we have about $80,000 to raise really quickly, and we're not going to do that with some corporate support. So Joan Duggan and Nora Strapp, heroes, legends, have taken on the task of reaching out to some corporate partners to see if we can get some funding from them. We've had one response from a partner, and that is that we are not a charitable organization, so as much as they love the idea, they can't support us. So we're going to fix that, because that's going to be probably a standard response going forward if you're looking for corporate contribution. So again, our trustee champion CPA is going to make sure that we move that forward because he's really good to me. and I'm not above begging if I have to. So that is something we're going to move forward with pretty quickly because if there's an opportunity for us to grow a great corporate partner, then we want to make sure that we can do that. So, and move those things forward. I can't stress enough the importance of human capacity. You met our board. There are 6 of us. That's not a lot of people. And we do have a great volunteer base. We haven't been as good as we should be at asking for help when we need help. So part of tonight is going to be me telling you what we need help with and hopefully you thinking that there's something that you might want to be a part of. But the human capacity piece is huge. We've got some great big dreams and we really are dedicated to moving forward with them and seeing them come to fruition, and we need help. And I'm not going to be proud about that or precious about it. We need help. And whatever your skill or gift or talent or passion is, I am very certain we can find a place for it. So please don't be shy. At the very back of the room, in fact, later on tonight, I have some big Post-it notes, and there are some very specific things that we kind of need some help with. So if there are things that sound interesting to you, you can put your name and phone number or email by. That would be amazing. A couple of those things. You can flip to the next slide. Maybe I might have actually listed them out on the next slide. I did skip the center redesign. Okay, I'll go back. Sorry about that. I'm so excited to get people happy. Thank you. So center redesign is a big project. This was one of the legacy grant pieces. It's sort of the final piece of the legacy grant along with the project that Ariel is working on. It involves, there was some community engagement done a few years ago, and there was a plan that was kind of drafted to change up how things are displayed and how the space is used on the inside. The displays that we have, they're great. They're a bit outdated, and there's lots of opportunity to do some really cool things with digital media, audiovisual stuff, and we believe that we're missing an opportunity to tell the story in a really engaging way by not leveraging technology to help us do that. So a big part of what we want to do going forward is to build in some of those technological tools and toys that will help us do that and really be a place where things are engaging. I, again, spent some time in Ireland a few weeks ago, and my gosh, they do museums really well. And they've had thousands of years to figure it out, but they tell stories, right? That's what the Irish are known for, telling amazing stories. And I think that that's something that we can learn from them. They use, visual video clips of people who tell the stories of the people of the time. And wouldn't it be cool if we had descendants dressed in period costumes, filmed, telling the story from their ancestors? Can you see Michael Duggan telling you the story of his ancestors? That would be amazing, and it would be something we could have forever. So that's the kind of thing that I'm really hoping we can incorporate into the center redesign. A big part of it is certainly that. Another part of it is we have so many beautiful artifacts. There have to be better ways of displaying them and getting them framed in ways that really showcase what they are and what they were part of. There are different stories attached to the story of the wreck and rescue that deserve their own sort of spotlight. So what we've sort of envisioned is a bit of sort of a modular installation, where over here you might hear the story of the Irish community. And over here you're going to hear the story about the White Star Line and who they were and what happened to cause the wreck and what happened after, right? What happened after that? That horrible thing happened. What happened to those people? What happened to the people in the crew? Those are bits and pieces of the stories that we can hear, but it's a big story and it deserves its own space. The women who took people into their homes, I don't like to brag, I'm a descendant of a really cool woman. My great, Bob will correct me, 3 greats back grandmother, Sarah Jane O'Reilly, was one of the women who took people into her home to care for them when they were brought in to the shore. Those are stories that need to be told, right? Those are stories that are really important. And not only for the history of that event, but because it speaks to the people in our community still. And I think that's really important for us to acknowledge and to get out there, because I know every person in this room, every person in our community jumped with Swiss Air, and jumped with 9/11, and jumped when the fires were happening, and jumped every time somebody goes missing and we have search and rescue out here. You're taking sandwiches, you're doing what you can. That is what we are as a community, and I think that story needs to be told. So there's lots of ways that we can do that. Unfortunately, when we first had the plan developed, We had big ideas and a certain amount of money, and now we're a few years down, and things are really expensive now. So we may not be able to realize all of the original vision, but we're going to be working with Grant Murray was the original consultant who worked with community to kind of come up with the plan. Grant has a very full docket right now and isn't able to work with us, but he has recommended Adam Fine with Fathom Designs to work with us. He has some great experience, so we'll be meeting with him to have a conversation about what the plan could look like now and how we use the money to the best of our ability to tell as much of the story as we can. And it may need to be phased in and modular. We'll use the money we have to tell the story we can for now, with a plan to build on that going forward, because we may not be able to do everything all at once, but we want to do it all. So we'll just come up with a plan to make that make sense and figure out how we're going to do it as we go. That is the legacy grant. And then, of course, Ariela's piece that she'll tell you about in a little bit. All right, human capacity, that was everything. That's going to be it for me for a bit, honestly. Yes, it absolutely is. I'm going to call upon Hamish Malcolm to come forward, please, and thank you. We have a mic over there if you would like to speak. And if you would pull up the financial reports, please. I don't know which one you need first. Yes, sir. Would you like me to stand and hold your paper? I'm happy to do that. I'll get you a music stand. I can do that because I have a headset. You can't, but I'll give you this.
Okay.
Oops, sorry.
So, where's the camera? I see. Okay, hi, everybody. Okay, so the financials are up here and they're not legible.
We did send them out.
Okay, so this is the balance sheet. And that, oh, sorry. This is the balance sheet. And this tells us, what? Okay. Thank you, Ariella. Okay, yeah. The balance sheet is a picture of where we ended up at the end of the year, which was December 31st, 2025. And if you can read this, you'll see that we had cash in the bank of $16,000, which was for general purposes. We had $113,000 in the bank, which was restricted, and that means it's cash received from our grantors that has to be spent on certain projects that we committed to, but we haven't spent them yet, so we have to hold that money back in order to honor our obligations. We had inventory of about $1,900. That represents shirts and stuff. I don't know. Is there jam in that? It even had jam in it. Okay. So if you go this year to buy jam, get 26's jam. Okay. The capital assets represent, they used to be called fixed assets. So it's like leasehold improvements, office furniture and equipment, museum artifacts, etc. So that totals after amortization $4,900. So our total assets at December 31st were $136,732. However, we had liabilities of accounts payable, $8,000, which represents accounting. And I'm not charging for my services, but we have a bookkeeper and we have software costs that we haven't reimbursed me for. These will all clear, or will have cleared in the early part of 2026. Deferred revenue is the opposite of the restricted cash, 111,978. This represents the money we have received less what we've spent. And so we've received more than we spent, so that money is safe and secure in the bank. Can we have so any questions on the balance sheet? Okay. So can we have the next page, please? Okay, this is the statement of, what is this anyway? Statement of operations. We have 3 projects on the go: the Anniversary 150, the Legacy Project, and the Lifeline Project. And the revenue there represents the money that we drew down from what we'd received for those 3 projects. And it wasn't very much last year. Legacy, 28,800. Lifeline was 0, but we actually did a lot of work on Lifeline, but it wasn't, pardon me? I didn't hear that.
Wasn't paid for yet.
No, the work was done, but the Museums Canada, or the Digital Museums Canada hadn't sent us the money yet. So in early January, we got the money for all the work we did in 2025, and that will appear next year. And it was $49,698, and that was for the preliminary version of the project, which is, Ariella, do you want to describe that project? Oh, you are, okay. So it's like it's a digital museum sort of educational game, and Ariella can expand on that. There are two more phases of that to go. The final version in 1 language and the final version in 2 languages. So we're working on the 4th phase right now. For where am I here? Legacy, we spent 28,800, and we recognized the drawdown in the same amount. So you get the revenue side is the same as the expense side. And that's the way it goes with this, for accounting for these kind of projects. That leaves the, Anniversary 150. We have $32,000 left over from the money we raised in our anniversary year, and we're hoping to spend that this year. That leaves the museum, and you can see that we had total revenue, mostly grants and gift shop revenue, totaling $45,700. That was the museum's income, and the museum's expense was $42,200. So the museum had a surplus of $4,000. Any questions? Oh. Yes. No, the events. Yes. So, any questions on the income statement? All right. I think what we should do is ask for a motion to approve these financials and a seconder and have a vote.
That is
And then
exactly
it's
the process, sir. Thank you.
Oh, do
Yeah.
we do that now, or is that later in the agenda?
No, we do it right now, after you shared it with them. So if there are no further questions, I would like to call for a motion to approve our financial statements for the end of the year 2025. So I see Mabuber and Scott, thank you. All in favor? Contrary minded?
My
Motion
work is
carried.
done.
No, it's not.
It's not?
It's done for now. For right now, you're good. Thank you, Hamish. I appreciate you. So thank you very much for that. And thanks again to Hamish. It's a tremendous amount of work to keep us on track and make us understand what we can and can't spend. So really helpful. I want to go spend all the money, and I can't, apparently, which is rude. We also have another piece of business. So next slide, please. We have to have an appointment of an auditor or a reviewer. That is part of sort of the process that you do. To be very honest with you, we can't afford an auditor. We just can't. It's thousands of dollars, and it would be very challenging to find an accounting firm who will take on a small not-for-profit audit because they are not revenue forward. Yes, sir. Could you just hold your horses? I'm getting to it. Jeez. So I was trying to build them up to the fact that we would like to waive the need for an audit because we can't afford to do it. However, we're very transparent with our financials. We're here with you now. Any member of this society, you have the right to ask to review the financials, and we're happy to do that at one of our regular board meetings. We do regularly review them. We do have oversight from a CPA, and just so that you understand, we have 3 independent signatories on our account, 3 members of the board. Any 2 of those 3 can sign an expense, and we have a log and an approval process where things get approved, and we know if it's not in the budget, it doesn't get spent because we don't have the money, as you can tell. So that is our process, and we are hopeful that the membership will agree that we don't have to have a formal audit. I can't move that, but any other member of the society can. So, thank you, Margaret. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Joan, thank you very much. All in favor? Contrary minded? Okay, and I am very serious. Like, this money doesn't belong to me personally or any member of the society. Like, if you have questions, please ask them. We're happy to have a conversation about it. Moving on. So this is our team who have been in charge of some of our bigger pieces of operation. So I'll ask John Corbett to come forward and give a bit of an update on the museum operations. And look at my CPA sneaking out the door. I know, I appreciate you. Thank you. He's only here because I asked, and I really appreciate that because you don't want to listen to me talk to you about finances. Yeah, I already shamed him. Let him go.
Okay, this is fun, isn't it?
Into the
This is
microphone,
fun,
sir,
right?
so our friends online can hear you.
Can you hear me up there?
Don't touch it, I'll hold it.
Speak,
There you go.
speak, speak.
Just lean in a little bit. You'll be good.
All right, I wrote up, I had to submit a report. One of the organizations that Shirley didn't mention is the HRM, what are they called? Community Museum. It's part of Heritage, the Heritage part of HRM. So they've gone in chunks of 3 years where they appropriate money and give it out for 3 years, but one of the things we have to do at the end of the year is to write a review for them, and we've been fortunate enough to get that. And one of the benefits of that is the thing that the government went through and started cutting grants for visitor information centers and libraries and other small museums. This money is protected this year, and they tell me it's protected for next year, so that's a benefit. So I had to write that. But anyway, these are somewhat of the highlights of that. The operation, which is principally the center, which which is technically only open from May to, we'd like to keep it open from October. Divided by the summer months, we get grants from Canada Summer Jobs and the Provincial Skills Program. And then we backfill it with volunteers like Nora and Scott and Bob Chalk from time to time and Joan from time to time. So if anyone wants to join us there, we'd love to have you. I think we're set now until the kids go back to school in September, and then we have to do it ourselves. So this past year, we had to cut the whole season short for a couple of reasons. One, because a couple of the young people that we were going to hire or did hire eventually were high school students, so they couldn't show up in October, May. So we lost May and some of June. And then that was 2 years ago. And then last year, somewhat the same thing. 2 years ago, we had to cut it off about mid-October because our volunteer staff ran out. They had already done more time than they needed to in May, but couldn't finish the season. Last year, we were able to finish the season, so that was somewhat of a highlight. With that said, reduced time, we ended up with about 10% higher walk-up rate, which was 10% higher than the 1 year after COVID. The year after COVID has been the best year that we've had in 10 years, and we had about 3,500 people in the first year after COVID. Each year it dropped off the next year, then each year it improved, and last season we were 10% higher. That included, among other things, school trips, one of which from as far away as Barrington. I can't imagine putting a bunch of school students, high school students on a bus, driving them 3 or 4 hours from Barrington to where we were. We thrilled them with the story, and then they thrilled themselves with the park and all that and other ice stuff, and then got back on a bus for another 3 hours, but they came up. Actually, that same group from Yarmouth, same teacher from Yarmouth, wanted to do the same thing because she enjoyed it so much. However, due to grants and whatnot, she couldn't get a bus, and they weren't about to hitchhike or anything like that. We had the group that we had. We've had one person that this year. We'll have had her for 3 years. This year we'll have another one for. No, this year we'll have one who's been with us for 4 years, one that's been with us for 3 years, one is their second year, and one who is brand new. So anyway, it's nice to see these young people come back, and they all do a terrific job. And each year they're better because they're used to it. If I can only get them to slow down and speak slowly. This weekend, actually, we have a group coming in that requires ASL, but I think they'll bring their own interpreter because they won't understand my hand signs.
And one of our new hires is bilingual this year, right?
Sorry?
One of our new hires is bilingual this year, French and English. One of our new hires, students.
Oh yes, one of them has been Frenchish all along,
Right.
and it's been good.
So that's a great opportunity that we have somebody in the facility who can speak French if we have tourists come in
So
and have that.
We've had a couple of groups who have come out and rented the park for things. There's a ski club who gets together in the summer and they have a barbecue. This group of kids last year arranged themselves for a community kids day. It wasn't anything that we on the board suggested to them or someone else suggested to them. They just put up their hands and said, we want to do this. And we want to organize it, and we want to be for the community kids. And they had little kids, and they had big kids, and they had a few of the big kids' family, and they all seemed to have a good job. There's also a group from Maritime Travel, I guess it's a bus, a double-decker bus, and they were running something called Scenic Harbors. Now, what that consisted of was showing up, walking through the park. They only came in to see the center, excuse me, to use the washroom. But they did buy the odd little things, so it helped us a little bit. But it spread the story. One of our mandates is to tell the story, not to make money. necessarily. Be nice to make money, but, and it did spread the story. Now, unfortunately, the first time they showed up, they didn't know how to get into the site, and the bus driver took out the community mailbox at the bottom of the driveway. So they had to get one of these big things from the city to come out and literally lift the bus up. So we had these people hanging around for 2 or 3 hours and reading the signs again and using the washroom again and waiting to continue their tour. And those guys had so much fun. They're coming back again this year. The center, they got a lot of support from the board and whatnot. Nora and Joan and Margaret came out a couple of times to help, but the kids were on point for a number of events, setting up. What am I thinking of? Setting up for receptions. Rose, you'll remember the blueberry cake. So one of them found the recipe, and they made blueberry cake for every one of these receptions. I know, I know I'm taking too much time, but anyway. And of course, they developed some materials to complement the people who built the quilt. You didn't mention the quilt, did you? It's one of the events.
Wasn't it this year project?
Yeah, but it was released. It was released last year, for which there was a reception, and it was put up and so forth. So, what else is there? I've mentioned that grant. One of the things for this year with the cutting of the budgets, we've been hit with that. We've got some nice looking grants, but they've cut back on the percentage of the money. You know, we'll support you for 10 weeks, but we're only going to pay 1/3 or 2/3 or half of the full freight. So there's an in-kind thing, and the way we need to sort of manage by not starting as early as we might otherwise do, and finding some way to constrain the number of hours that these kids are working, but making ends meet. So, raise any questions? Bob, you have a question? No, you don't? Okay, well, that's good. That's good. Thank you. Doris Forstall. She's one of our crafters. She came out last year and helped with the intake and setting up, and Shirley last year reached out to the crafters to get them come back, but Doris picked that up, and she's done a terrific job. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So I mentioned earlier that we had a grant this year from the Prospect Road Rec Association, and, well, sorry, this was a grant that we actually received last year, and it was to start a geocaching project. And by the time we kind of got ourselves organized, it was too wet to go in the woods to find places, or we weren't allowed in the woods because it was too dry. Is that what it was? Too dry. So Scott, one of our board members, is going to come up and tell you all about the geocaching project that we're so close to getting ready to put out. We're really excited about this one.
Hello there. Any hikers in the woods locally? Got a couple. Anyway, myself and another member of the board, Gord, have been planning on putting together a little geocache project. I've picked out several trails and locations in my rather rare time off work and weather permitting to stick them. They'll be like little Easter eggs hidden in the woods, containing an assortment of pins that somebody graciously donated to us that you can swap out for something else if you'd like. These geocaches will be hidden on one of the many trails in the area. You can pick up a trail guide at some point at the museum / information center. I will be placing them out soon. I can tell you one place they'll be is near the new pedestrian bridge at Nicole Lake Falls. So they'll be around there. One will be around there. The others will be hidden in rather weather-protected areas so they don't get blown away or washed away by any of our storms. So hopefully I'll have that out soon on the SS Atlantic Facebook page. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Any questions?
Yeah. Scott? Awesome. Thank you very much. So Sheila Lamflew is preserving her voice for her performance in a few minutes. Ordinarily, I'd make Sheila do this, but she does me so many favors that I'm going to suck it up and do a favor for her. So Sheila was kind of our lead on community events this year. We had a fantastic musical bingo. We had a summer fun event that we had, and we've had both of these at the Legion. We're hoping to do another musical bingo this fall. We've also been talking to Brian Doherty. Those folks, I'm sure you know him. He's a great supporter of the SS Atlantic, Evans and Doherty. So Brian is willing to come out and play a few songs for us if we host. He doesn't want to be the star of the show, typical humble Irishman, but he's willing to come out and tell a few stories and play a few songs to entertain folks. And as long as we showcase some local musicians as part of that. So we're working on that as well. We haven't finalized the dates, but they will probably be Friday nights, one in October and one in November, second or third week. We're just trying to confirm, line up all of our ducks. I don't know about your ducks, mine kind of roll all over the place. So we're trying to get them all in one spot. We have, so you received when you came in a bit of a card that says, here are the things that we're hoping to have happen. There are not firm dates attached to some of these things yet, but we did want to kind of put them out in the consciousness so folks are aware. This summer, with our partners at the parish of St. Timothy and St. Paul, there will be the blessing of the boats. I believe Reverend Kate will be presiding over that, and of course, the Blue Nose is in dock at that time, and they'll be in Terrence Bay, so great opportunity to see the Blue Nose. It is going to be tied up, correct, Scott? Yeah, so you may be able to get, do they let people on? Is that what happens? Excellent. So cool. Yeah, so that's happening on the 26th of July, so know that, and then we'll do a reception at the center after that, so we'll be looking forward to that, and we may see a call out for some assistance for that particular event. Again, the musical video bingo that we did last year, that was a whole bunch of fun. So we're looking forward to doing that again in a pub night, again in the fall. We are going to do the SS Atlantic and St. Paul's Christmas music service again. We had a great new format last year with a lot of local musicians, and it was fantastic. So we'll build on that and have a little party at the center again after that. And then Sheila has been working really hard to drum up some interest and some potential actors to participate in a, what do you call it? Not a relaunching, when you put a play on again, a revival, there we go, that's the word I was looking for. A revival of the play that was done at Atlantic Memorial School all those years ago. So it's a play about the SS Atlantic. Sheila would really love to work with the schools to make that happen again. So we're going to work on that. We have the script. It may need a little polish. We may need to tighten up some of the historical details. We'll probably run it through Bob just to make sure it's all where it should be. But that is something that's on Sheila's future plans. So keep an ear out for that, because when she does go to do that, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a project that's going to take a lot of hands. We're going to need sets and costumes and all kinds of fun things. So Sheila will be looking for some help for that for sure. I don't think we have a date on that, but just wanted to let folks know that that is kind of where we're planning to go. Is there anything else, Sheila? Did I hit them all? Okay, great. Whew, passed. Okay, so we've been teasing you all night long and teasing folks on Facebook with an update on the Lifeline project, which is an incredibly cool interactive game that is designed for learning and for fun, and our fabulous creative consultant, Ariella Palke, is going to tell you all about that.
Can you put up the first slide of the PowerPoint? hard to do anything audiovisual in a space that is so bright, but at least the sun's going down a little bit. The Lifeline project is, it's not one of the legacy projects. It is separate from that, but it was part of, you know, a whole lot of research everyone was doing around trying to find money to celebrate the 150th anniversary. And it was Margaret Sagar who found this project funding through Digital Museums Canada, and they're a national organization that partners with museums to put some aspect of their collection or the story of their collection of their museum online in interesting ways. So if you look them up, if you're interested in this, they have a whole bunch of projects online, small, large, etc. We feel that, that this project is going to be one of the most innovative of all of their national projects. And it's a game about history. So it's based on, this is the opening. It's very much in progress. So what I'm going to show you are just little clips, some excerpts, and we'll have our fabulous tech team back there try it out a couple times. The thing that excites me the most about this project is that it is so collaborative and there's so many community people involved, and many of you in the room have been involved in different ways. It's based on this notion that you're in a boat, you're out at sea, and there's objects floating around, and you find them, and then you learn about them. And you learn about them, there's 7 chapters, and you go through each chapter, and once you collect all the objects, it unlocks a video where each of the objects is featured, but as part of a story, so you learn the context. And all the stories of all the objects are told through the perspective from the perspective of people who would have lived in the communities at the time of the wreck. And so those stories were written first by Bob Chalk, then they were passed through, you can move on to the next chapter, oh, sorry, this is not the not the website yet, just the PowerPoint. It looks the same at the beginning. So we had community consultations in the Terrence Bay Community Hall, where all the community members who were descendants of people who lived in the area at the time of the wreck were invited. So it's very specific. All the voices are, the stories are all told in a certain dialect of the community in the way that people would have spoken 150 years ago. And so this was a great community consultation because we talked about language. So my concern was that Bob had done this initial writing and, you know, we were using the dialect, but Bob's from Newfoundland, so some of the community members were like, well, that's not exactly the word I would use, and we switched some of the words around. And then we had this discussion about the grammar, for example, because when you see the text in the site, it looks like it's not the correct grammar. So I wanted to make sure that the community felt okay about this. So this is going to be a project that anyone internationally can see. It'll all be online. And, you know, will that make people think that, you know, people don't know how to speak properly? And it was very interesting, the conversation we had, because it was unanimous that everyone was like, no, this is the language we want to use. And it was the language, and this is how people spoke. And we had the most interesting conversations just around language and grammar and specific terms. So you can go to the next slide. That's another image. So you can see there were a lot of people there. Some of you in the room. Sheila helped with this, and Sheila Lamplugh has also been very helpful in coaching the reading of the texts. So you can move to the next slide. So I've had there's 50 objects altogether, and I think we've had about 35 different people from the community, from the communities, all people, again, who were descendants of people who lived there at the time of the wreck, read the stories about each object. And Sheila, who is a retired drama teacher and English teacher, has been like super helpful. I think you've been there for almost all of them, and so that's been really great. So these are just a few people there. Here, I think we have the youngest person reading, and possibly the oldest person reading. So everyone came up and we coached them and we did multiple tries, and you'll hear a couple of their voices in a sec. So you can go to the next slide. These are, sorry, it's hard to see, but so all the objects have been photographed. Also, everywhere, every time I can, I've tried to work with local people. So Denise Sully is a local photographer, so she has done all the photography of the objects on the site. Some of the objects come from the museum, some of the objects come from neighbors. Since the whole story is told from the perspective of the people in the community, it's not as much about the ship and what happened, although that is in one of the chapters, but the stories are really about the response and how the community felt and how the community members lived at the time. So that's why we see like this old lantern there. That's the model that Bob actually made that's in the museum right now. And that's an old parasol that was found from the ship. That's also one of the objects from the museum. You can go to the next slide. So some of the objects we didn't have. So for example, the shovels that they used, which we could see in the photograph, have curved handles because they were just made from irregular branches. So I looked and looked, I couldn't find a shovel, so I was like, well, I'm gonna get community members to create miniature versions of these objects, because all we see is photographs, so we don't need the full-scale replica. So a woman in Terrence Bay, Lee Nichols, carved those shovels. We had the vest, so one of the objects was a vest with gold coins sewn in. So some of the people on the ship would keep money in their clothing. And again, Bob, like, this was all came out of your brain, so then I had to kind of create these objects, and of course we couldn't find a vest, so we imagined, well, where would they have put the gold coins in? And Rose, who's here, Rose Casey and Teresa Broussard brainstormed and got a vest from Mission Martyr Valley Village, and then kind of sewed the strips on so that it would look like there could be money hidden in it. And the coffin, I've also worked with a local woman from Prospect who's done a lot of animations for the videos, which you'll see a bit of. And she's done some extra drawings. So for example, that was a coffin that would have been used when a whole lot of coffins had to be created and then brought in on a schooner. I'm looking at you, Bob, because I know you're just thinking, oh, you're not quite saying it right or something. Anyway, it's all good. You can correct me later. But, okay, we'll go on to the next one. So we have also done some filming to create moments. So in the videos that get unlocked, since we didn't have the budget to do sort of historical drama where we hire actors and have everyone in costume dress, we worked with just symbolism and hands and lighting. So we did a lot of filming. There's Nora and Margie who were very helpful with collecting a whole bunch of props. And if you can go to the next slide. So it's a little hard to see, but these are some of the moments from the filming. There was a group of women knitting. Margaret's there. William Bartlett was one of the key actors who was in a lot of the scenes. We were filming things that were floating in the water for one of the chapters, so that's what that image represents. You can go to the next slide. And in one of the stories, for example, there's a story about having to drill, because when everybody came in to the house, there was so much water on the floor that they had to drill through the floor to get rid of the water. So that's one of the moments in one of the videos. You can go to the next slide. So we worked for all the sound and a lot of the sound effects. There's a choir in Halifax. This is one of the non-local elements called the Aeolian Singers. They're an all upper voices choir or women's choir, and I had the idea to work with them because all the women on the ship died. So to have the music created by female voices kind of represents the souls, spirits coming from under the water. And the woman who's the conductor of the choir right now happens to be an expert in improvisational and experimental choir music. So the choir is just kind of like a haunting mood throughout the piece, which you'll hear a little bit of. We had a lot of fun creating sound effects with the choir. So we had a 6-hour day. Colin, who's also here, Colin Walsh came and cooked for everybody, made lunch. And you can see the choir. Another local person involved is the audio engineer, Palmer Jameson, who lives in Terrence Bay. So he did all the recordings, and he's working with me on creating the sound design for the project. Colin, by the way, and Judy are opening a cafe in Terrence Bay, which will be open soon. So if you want to ask them about that later, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so now the site design. This is the old design. I just have this slide up to kind of show you where it started. We imagined that you're in a dory and you're at the site of the wreck, and everything is moving and the waves are moving, but it's not really realistic. It's like kind of surreal, created, like these objects. Some of the objects would never be floating. For example, there's a wood stove. You wouldn't find a wood stove floating in the water. So it's sort of surreal and collage and sort of mixed media feel. So you can go to the next slide. And this was an early design that we did. So that's how the objects would seem in the water. So now I'll show you the site, a little bit of the site and what that feels like. And then I have a short video with some excerpts from the chapter end videos. Is it too long? Is my time up? Okay. So yeah, we'll go to that website. Can you go to the opening page of the website? The one like just before that? If you go to home, yeah, up there. Or back or something. Do you know the that opening? Oh. There we go. Okay, yeah. So it starts like this, and you then click on, this is a combination of, you might recognize there's the quilt, and there's an image from the monuments, there's a graphic, there's some seaweed, so it's kind of this surreal, like, real, created, local artists, and natural environment elements. So then you go to begin, and this will be read out loud. So it just sort of, I'm not going to read it all, but it just welcomes you into the site and tells you what you're going to see and hear. So you can click on, and it's even here, it's all from the personal subjective perspective. So it is like, welcome to our community, help us figure out what happened, learn about what we went through. So it's all personal and subjective. So you can go to next. And then there's an option, so for accessibility, there's a simple version of the website. So say your computer is really old and you can't have this whole immersive experience. You can go to the simplified website. You can still see all the objects, read all the stories. You just won't have the full experience. So there's kind of two websites that are being created. I forgot to mention, I'm not doing all the tech. I'm doing all the creative work in collaboration with many other people. But there's a company in Ontario called Stitch Media who are doing all the technical work around this and the programming. So if you go to immersive experience, so it starts, there's 7 chapters, as I said. First response, this will be read out loud, and it's kind of an intro. And the music and the sound is temporary for now. It's sort of like it is the choir, but it's not, we're recreating it. So then you can go to start, and then you can start to see the objects floating in the water. You can move around. So just to warn you, the objects right now in the build don't match with the voices and the text. It's just because it's in progress. It'll all match. But we can hear a couple of the different kinds of voices. Just click on any of the objects.
There was about 375 men came through.
Can you turn the volume up?
Between 4 o'clock in the morning and dinner time. So much water dripped from their clothes
So
that her father.
we're not going to
more
listen to the full
holes in
thing
the
because it
floor
doesn't match, but
to
you get a
drink.
sense of the kind of voice, and we'll just click out of that and we'll hear a couple of others. The music will all continue. I think you can still hear it.
I picked up on the shore near the house what I thought was a child's umbrella, a pretty little thing. Somebody told me it was a parasol, which the fancy English ladies carried to
So
keep
we
the sun
can
off.
move on
Huh.
to a couple of
They
others,
wouldn't
and
have to
then.
worry.
So that's the actual site of the wreck, and then you can move around 360 degrees around it to find the objects. Try the oars. The oars actually match up.
Someone with a pair of oars could row a small boat like a dory, but a bigger boat like a seam boat needs 2 or more longer and heavier pairs of oars. They're hard to make. First, you got to cut down a straight tree. The fewer the branches, the better. Knots weaken it, and a straight grain for strength.
So we can
Then you have to dry her out of the sun
Click out
so
of
it
that.
don't split. When it's ready,
just
you take
on
your
the-
axe and draw knife. Takes a lot of cutting.
So you can see the stories around the objects are not just straightforward, here's what this is. There's little bits of, story in them, and that's the whole way that we're approaching this site. So you can see down there, there's click on the inventory button. So there's always going to be a net where the things that you've collected are stored, and you can see at the bottom how many are left before the video gets
Lots
unlocked.
of people wear medals
So-
and stuff to tell what religion they belongs to.
So yeah, we won't keep going with this, but you can see there's 50 objects, 7 chapters, and I'll show you if you're interested. I put together just a little couple of clips of the video in progress, so we can go to that now. So when you find all the objects, it unlocks a video, and this is just a few clips from 3 of the different videos. It's all in progress, like all rough drafts of things. It's the video file. And if you can turn the volume up, that would be great. Here we go.
The first clue we had that there was
Oh,
trouble
yeah,
was
my
the
voice
crash.
is this one.
That woke me up. Then there was a big whoosh, distress flares, and the sky lit up, and the poor old dog started howling. So we headed to the outer side of the island. I had a lantern, and before we got anywhere, this form appeared, scared us half to death, staggering like he was drunk. It was a sailor, more dead than alive. "You gotta help us," he kept saying. "We needs help." I sent him up to the house, and my daughter gave him dry clothes and got some tea in him. He was the first of hundreds my family took care of that night. When we got to the edge of the island, there was a sight to behold. The biggest ship any of us had ever seen drove up onto the rocks, half sunk, grinding and scraping with her 10 lifeboats, either smashed or stuck where they was. She was stuck on a ledge and was almost on her side, so some ended up on the outside of the hull. Everybody else tumbled down the deck into the water, which finished them off. I saw one crowd break a portal to get people out. One of them was the only child saved. They thought that if they could get to the rock, they might be able to make it to shore. So they tied a rope around a crewman, and he dove in and got to the rock. He hauled Mr. Brady over. He was the 3rd officer, and they got ashore. Now they were sailors. Other men who tried either drowned or got stuck on the rock.
We called it the long and hungry month of March. Grub was scarce by then. In the fall, we put down our food for the whole winter. We dug potatoes and turnips from the garden, and stored them away in the root cellar. Below ground was the only place they wouldn't freeze. Even in the house, the water barrel often froze open. We'd take the schooner to the merchants and get a few barrels of flour. Sure, bread had to be made every day, except Sunday, of course. Bread and molasses was what you filled up on, and fry bread, of course. If you was out of flour for fry bread, then starvation was at your door. In the fall, we shot all the birds we could, and we killed a pig. But when that was gone, then that was it for the meat. We shared the sheep at the end of June, and us women got to knitting. Underwear, sweaters, mitts, socks, just about everything we wore. We cut and haul firewood. We would get some coal too, if we got enough money from the merchant who bought our fish. After the wreck, we had almost 400 people to care for, and we barely had enough food left from the winter to feed ourselves. Well, they ate everything we had.
William Fielding
Maybe we should just,
of the
it's a bit
Halifax
hard to
Morning
see,
Chronicle,
so I think
another
we should just
newspaper.
stop it. It's looks like it's really hard to see, so. Anyway, just to give you a sense, it's like the voice and the kind of whole feel of the project and the great collaboration with so many local people, so, yeah.
It's amazing. Absolutely. That's incredible, right? Like, what a great way to be able to tell that story. Right? Right. No, I hope not too. No, and it was great to be, it was really cool to be a part of the process too, so that was really great. Thank you so much, Ariella, for all of that and for all of your hard work. I'm very conscious of the time, and although my next sort of little snippet was going to be a bit of a bit of report on our visioning session that we did, we had 6 or 7 people in a room, not really enough to get a great long-term vision, but at least identified a couple of priorities. What I'll commit to do is send that out by email for everybody so that we can, we really do have to get to the business of the whole board of directors piece. But there would be pieces attached to all of the things that we're looking to do. One of the really cool ones is digitization of our collection. So making sure that everything that is in the museum and all of the things that we have had over the years that we have been holding on to in digital format has a place to live where it can be accessed by the public. We have stories from projects that were done, like storytelling projects, and we'll have so many visuals from the 150th anniversary celebrations and all of the research that went into that. It's really going to be a monumental project. Fortunately, the Association of Nova Scotia Museums does have some templating and sort of a process that at least we can get started with, so we don't have to start kind of blind. But it's really important for future generations that we have all of this material saved someplace where everybody can see it. That's how we tell the story, right? So I will commit to sending out a full update on that by email to our entire membership within 7 days. How about that? I said it publicly, so somebody hold me accountable, please. Okay, let's move on. Just some recognition and appreciation. You can flip to the next slide. This is one of my favorites, though. 3 of my favorite people on the planet in one slide. That's really cool. That was the Lieutenant Governor and his wife, who is my absolute idol. I just love her. And of course, Bob in the middle. So 3 of my favorite people, I'm not kidding. This is a tiny snippet of all of the amazing people who give their heart and soul to the SS Atlantic Heritage Park Society. I have probably missed some people, and I apologize from the bottom of my heart if your name is not here. But we had our summer staff, Julie Brown, Alice Robotham, and Jackie Warham. Our corporate fundraising team I told you about. Community events, all of these things that we do, the pub nights, the fun fairs, all that kind of stuff. It is not 1 or 2 people who does that. Mike Lamp, who's a hero, we drag him out for everything. He's great. All sorts of people who have been a part of that, and we're so proud. Lynette Richards does a great job of kind of keeping We're not always on top of social media, which is, one of those functions of having 5 people doing the work of 102. So Lynette does a great job of kind of keeping the story alive on the SS Atlantic 150 anniversary page as well, and we really appreciate her time and talent for that. Our liaison committee with St. Timothy and St. Paul, thanks so much, Lynn, for being here tonight. It's so nice to see you. Bob and Liam Mason. Liam works with the Charitable Irish Society, and they're working on that project for us, and we appreciate that. Project support, Gord Steves, Walt Straps, Judy Pelham, whose name is not on there and should be because she's involved with the geocaching project as well. Doris Forrestal at the museum, all of the people who've come out to do tours and help us with events at the museum couldn't do it alone. We're so, so thankful. And again, if your name's not up there, and it should be, I'm so sorry. Let's move on. Ta-da! Elections of the Board of Directors. The most important part of the night, not at all. Being a member of the Board of Directors is important for 2 reasons. Societies, not-for-profit societies, need governance. They need people who kind of understand the rules, make sure that we follow them in keeping with being registered with the Nova Scotia Joint Stocks. We make sure that we are transparent in our accounting, and we make sure that the business of the society gets done. Doesn't sound like it's super exciting, but it really is important. I'm not kidding when I say I love AGMs because I think they're really cool. But the Board of Directors does hold an important role in the society's operations. If we didn't have a Board of Directors, we wouldn't be able to qualify for grants because we couldn't be a registered not-for-profit society and all those sorts of things. So being on the Board of Directors does mean that you have a fiduciary responsibility to the organization, which means that you have the obligation to be transparent in your accounting and spending. It means that you are held accountable if something were to go wrong. So we take that very seriously, but I don't say that to scare you. I just want to be upfront that that is a piece of what being a member of a not-for-profit board is, and I know that most of the people in this room have held that position somewhere or other, as it is. So what happens with our elections is, as of this moment, the entire board of the SS Atlantic has resigned. Please accept our resignation with thanks. It is part of our bylaws that is what we do. And we can have up to 15 members of the board. So we will call for nominations for board members here. We can, if we don't have 15, we can hold those spaces. And if we have people who are interested later, the board can appoint them in an interim capacity, even if they're not voted in. And they would be voted in at the next sort of general meeting. So, I guess at this point in time, I have been told that all of the current board members are prepared to stand for election. I will give them an opportunity to opt out now if I'm not speaking correctly, but that is my understanding. So myself and Sheila and Scott and Mabuber and John and Jason are all willing to stay on the board for the upcoming year. And at this point, I would like to call for nominations from the floor. And I'll ask a second time, because that's what you're supposed to do, is call for nominations from the floor. And the final time of asking, are there any further nominations from the floor? I promise it's not scary. We've got some really cool things to... Okay. All right. Okay. I'll leave it there for now. It is my fervent hope that some new folks are interested in coming on the board, but I understand that everybody is busy. We will do some targeted recruitment. I was hoping I'd have somebody else who could do that, but we'll get on that too. So, could I have a nomination to a motion to accept the nomination of the slate of individuals who have stepped forward? Thank you, Joan. Seconded over here by Ariella. All in favor? Contrary minded? I'll put mine, no, I'm not going to do that. All right, thank you very much for your trust. We appreciate it. If you think that somebody may be interested in sitting on the board, we truly would love to have them. We do try to meet the third Monday of every month. I don't believe in having meetings if there's nothing to meet about, but usually there's something to meet about. So we will continue to be strong and mighty and hopefully get some interest. I will say this. You do not have to be a member of the board of directors to be involved. We rely so heavily on people with their time and talent and energy. We have sign-up sheets at the back for some very specific projects. We need help with communications. John and I do our best, and God love Lynette, to try to keep things current and keep announcements going out. We would really love to see somebody with that skill set kind of come in and come up with a plan and a process and a strategy for we're going to this stuff on Facebook and this on Instagram, and the website's got to be kept updated, and we have to send out newsletters to our society folks so they know what's going on. We need somebody to help direct that, because it's just, and not just one person, that's not a one-person job, but we would really love to have somebody whose gift is in that arena to help us with that. We have a really cool event coming up in a couple of weeks. We are actually, we are at the Celtic Festival in Halifax, so we have an information booth that we'll get to have there, so we can talk to people maybe who don't always get a chance to come out to the center, all about the Atlantic and the museum that we have and what we do and why we exist. So we are looking for some volunteers who might be willing to sit at the table and interact with people that weekend, and I have a sign-up sheet down back with the dates and times, and I've split it up the shifts so nobody has to be there all day, because nobody wants to be anywhere all day. So there is that. We have, we're always looking for folks who are willing to do, help us out at the museum when we have to say goodbye to our summer students. So that's an opportunity as well. I can walk down and tell you what the rest of them are, because that's right here. We are looking for someone who is really interested in that whole Association of Nova Scotia Museums piece. We would love to have sort of a point person. They put out a lot of learning and training, and we have some reporting that we have to do for them. So it would be really great to have somebody who's just kind of interested in that kind of government connection, learning and growing piece, who want to take that on and kind of help keep us on track. And there's a few other things out there. So I'll leave that for you. Take a look at that. Next slide, please. I think I'm done. All right, so now that I'm a new member of the board, this was a motion that was circulated, and again, it's something that we've been talking about for a while. Well, I've been talking about it. I don't know if anybody else has been talking about it. I believe really strongly that boards of directors need to have term limits, because if people have the perception that it's the same group of people doing the stuff and running the show all the time, it takes away from the desire from people to join and belong. And it may shut down creative thinking, new ideas, new energy. And I also think that sitting on a board should never be a life sentence, right? You get to go home at some point. It is my motion that I am putting forward that the society adopt a policy of term limits. I did put the full wording of the motion out in our agenda notice, and I will read it for you now. And I will also include a note that Sheila had suggested. Okay, so my motion is to implement a policy of term limits for members of the board of directors. This would constitute a change in the bylaws, and if it's approved, we have to go through a process of joint stocks by filing a special resolution form. Members of the board of the directors may serve up to 2 consecutive terms on the board. If elected for 2 consecutive terms, they may not reoffer for a 3rd term. After a hiatus of 1 year, they may reoffer. So you'd have to take a break, right? Doesn't mean you can't still volunteer. It just means that you're not at the board table for that space of time. There'll be 2 exceptions to this. One, treasurer. It is so hard to find volunteer treasurers, and I work in the accounting industry, and people are constantly calling our office trying to recruit treasurers to come and be their treasurer for their not-for-profit organization, because accountants have to have a certain number of hours of time that they give back, but they all have their own thing that they do, and they all give back to their own thing. And so unless you're lucky enough, like we are, to have a CPA who is willing to kind of oversee things, it's really challenging. And I would hate to see the organization ever in a situation where they don't have that financial management. So in my motion, I say that the treasurer can reoffer, or either for a successive term or in an interim basis until a qualified replacement can be found. And the second, I've indicated here that an outgoing chair who's completed 2 consecutive terms may remain on the board in a non-voting capacity, strictly as advisory, for 1 year to ensure continuity. If there's a project midstream, that there's someone on the board who can kind of make that transition, especially if the board is comprised of a whole bunch of new members, and that projects under the chair's purview can be completed or transitioned to a new project lead. This would be approved by the general membership at the AGM with the regular election of officers. So if I said, I'm willing to stay, and you said no, then I'd go. That's how that would work. The board may appoint. So Sheila had raised the concern that what happens if the entire board turns over in one particular year? Fair enough, they could, right? We all got to resign. If none of us said we were coming back, we'd have a problem. So to ensure that there's some continuity, the board may appoint a recently retired member to an interim position should it be required to maintain quorum or fill a gap in a necessary skill set. So if we had somebody who was doing something and we didn't have somebody to fill that gap, then we could appoint them to continue. We would have to inform the membership within 30 days of that appointment so that everybody is aware that we've done that. Completing 2 terms and leaving the board does not mean an individual cannot continue as a volunteer, actively involved in society activities that fuel their interest and leverage their skill set. That is my motion. Discussion. Mhm. Yes. 6. Yes, sorry. Right. So it's a 1-year term, you can do it twice, and then you have to take a break. Okay, that is my intent. I can tighten that language up to make sure that it says that. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Other thoughts? Yes. I think that's always a risk. Right? If we all resigned tonight, if none of us wanted to come back and nobody stood up, we'd have no board. Right?
Yes and no, but what are your term limits now?
We don't have them. We resign at the end of every year, and then so we don't have any term limits. And people can just stay on forever. We have certainly had long-time board members. I'm in my 3rd year. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. You don't have to be a board member to work on a project. Right? I can't foresee a point in time where we would say, oh, you're not on the board anymore, you can't do that, sorry. Every project lead would would be reporting to the board as a whole anyway. That's how we're structured, is that if you're leading a project, whether you're a board member or not, you're still reporting to the board. That's right. Sheila? Okay. So that's your amendment to the motion? Okay. So does that make sense? Does that solve, not for you, because you think 2 years is too short? Okay. Is that the general consensus, that 2 years is not long enough? You think 3? 3? Does 3 sound good? We said that somebody could do. So a term is, my concern, I guess, is I would be worried that somebody would come on, like, you know what? I guess if you have a term doesn't mean you can't resign if it's not for you. So.
But the distinction is like the term is 1 year. Like you make a commitment for 1 year.
Right.
But then that can be extended longer than 1 other year.
Okay.
So you're still only committing for 1 year.
So a single term repeated up to 3 times. And then you have to take a break. Okay, so.
Like you've been on 3 years,
Mhm.
and you've done amazing work, and you've been kind of like in your prime, I would say, on this board.
Yeah,
And now, if
thanks.
you were the rule we were following, you would be gone.
I would be no longer on the board, I would still be involved.
Yeah.
So that's my passion and my interest, but yeah. Okay, so then, if I may reword my motion, I would propose that term limits would support terms of 1 year, which is the current practice, that may be renewed up to for a total of 3 successive terms. And then in the event the more than 50% of the board retires, we may allow 50% of the board to remain. Okay? I am happy to amend the motion to that. Is there a seconder for that? Scott, second. And may I call for a vote, please? All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried, and I thank you. Perfect. Thank you very much. I do think it's important because I never want anybody to feel like they are stuck, but I also, and I want to make sure that the people feel that they are welcome to come in and participate. So, thank you. I'm pretty sure I'm done. Pretty sure. Open the floor for questions. If anybody had questions or comments, we're happy to take them. Hearing none. May I have a motion to adjourn? I only need one hand. Joan Duggan, I knew I could look to you. And we don't need to approve that as long as somebody says that. The end of our meeting has come, and I have, thank you so much for being here tonight. It is so great to see a slightly larger crowd than we are used to seeing, and we truly appreciate, most of you have volunteered or participated or come to our events in some capacity or another. Some of you have taken on the burden of Job to try and get things done, and we appreciate you too. Thank you very much for being here. We do have special guests with us tonight, and we're so pleased. Who I've billed as Triple X because that's what they're known as out in the broad wide world. Plan B, as they've chosen to call themselves tonight. Sharon Resky, Rosalind Umlaw, and Sheila Lamplew are musical bandmates. All 3 are members of the Alive Band at St. Timothy's, a Christian rock band who plays Sunday nights at 7 o'clock up the street at the Jesus and Jeans. If you haven't been there, it's a great service, whether you're, churched or not. The music is fantastic, and it's a great vibe. So all 3 have been in the Triple X dance band playing in the Halifax area. Sharon, also known as Stevie Nicks, and Sheila currently play in Gypsy, the renowned Fleetwood Mac tribute band. And you guys have a couple of dates coming up locally very soon. Saturday at the Marquee. Excellent. They make a great margarita there. I shouldn't tell you that. That's true. Perfect. Yeah, we've got coffee and tea and snacks. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. And Ariella would like to make an announcement, so we'll open the floor.
I forgot to mention as part of my thing, but the choir, the Aeolian singers, are doing a 50th anniversary concert
Oh, cool.
on June 13th. I think it's 2 in the afternoon, and they're going to perform the song that's written for this project, and we are showing one of the videos that was talked about at the Atlantic there as well.
Wonderful.
You can get tickets, so check online for that Aeolian.
Is it in the afternoon? Perfect. So you can go there in the afternoon, and then it's Greek Fest weekend. So you grab some Greek food and go home. Perfect. Great. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to stop this now. We have snacks. Please eat all the snacks. Don't leave without snacks.
those lights turned off. Shadows. We already did a bit of a level check, so you should be okay. Watch out, there's tea there. Yeah, I see that. That's a nice top. You look nice in red.
Tell me something, Lord. Are you happy with this modern world? What can we do now to find some hope we're all searching for? We're calling. With all the sad times we find ourselves praying for change, to bring back better times to light our way. Yes, we hear you, Lord. Through your love we can find our joy. Yes, we need you more to deal with darkness hanging by our door. We're calling. We look to you for the path to follow, praising your name. If we have faith, we'll find a new tomorrow.
God's love will hold you, His love enfold you. You're far from alone anymore. His love will help you, He'll never doubt you. He can drive out the shadows now. In the light, in the joy of God's love. In the light, in the joy of God's love. In the light, in the joy of God's love, we can drive out the shadow now. Oh, 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 God's love will hold you, His arms enfold you. You're far from alone anymore. His love will help you, He'll never doubt you. He can drive out the shadows now. In the light, in the joy of God's love. In the joy, in the God of God's love. In the light, in the joy of God's love, we can drive out the shadow now. crown of thorns placed on his head. He knew that he would soon be dead. He said, "Did you forget me, Father, did you?" They nailed him to a wooden cross. Soon all the world would feel the loss of Christ the King before us. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. He hung his head, prepared to die, lifted his face up to the sky, said, "I am coming home now, Father, to you." A reed which held his final sip was gently lifted to his lips. He drank his last and gave his soul to glory. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. The soldier who used a sword to pierce the body of our Lord said, "Truly this was Jesus Christ, our Savior." He looked with fear upon his sword, then turned to face Christ the Lord, fell to his knees a-crying, "Hallelujah, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Took from his head the thorny crown, they wrapped him in a linen gown and laid him down to rest inside the tomb. Holes in his hands, his feet, his side. Now in our hearts we know he died to save us from ourselves. Oh, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. 3 days went by, again they came to move the stone to bless the slain with oil and spice anointing. Hallelujah. But as they went to move the stone, they saw that they were not alone. Jesus Christ is risen. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah,
I brought my shaker in case you need it. Got it? Okay.
time I tried to make it on my own, every time I tried to stand and start to fall, and all those lonely roads that I have traveled on, there was Jesus. When the life I built came crashing to the ground, when the friends I had were nowhere to be found, I couldn't see it then, but I can see it now. There was Jesus. In the waiting, in the searching, in the healing and the hurting, like a blessing buried in the broken pieces. Every minute, every moment, where I've been and where I'm going, even when I didn't know it or couldn't see it, there was Jesus. For this woman who needs amazing kind of grace, for forgiveness at a price I couldn't pay. I'm not perfect, so I thank God every day. Well, there was Jesus. There was Jesus. In the waiting, in the searching, in the healing and the hurting, like a blessing buried in the broken pieces. Every minute, every moment, where I've been and where I'm going, even when I didn't know it or couldn't see it, there was Jesus on the mountain, in the valleys. There was Jesus in the shadows of the alleys. There was Jesus in the fire, in the flood. There was Jesus, always is and always was. Not ever walk alone. You were always in the waiting, in the searching, in the healing and the hurting, like a blessing buried in the broken pieces. Every minute, every moment, where I've been and where I'm going, even when I didn't know it or couldn't see it, there was Jesus. There was Jesus. There was Jesus. There was Jesus.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. There we go. The girls are like, okay, guys, I gotta go now. We're at supper.